I'm responsible to get our speakers to come in. So I appreciate Brianna reaching out to us to say that she wanted to come. I want to thank Andrew for coming out. Safe Harbor is a fantastic facility for trauma and women. So we appreciate you sponsoring for lunch. If you want to be a lunch sponsor or know someone, Jonathan's the one to contact there. So we've got some speakers lined up, and I don't discuss that now, but we've got speakers lined up for the next 3 months, so we're looking good. Brianna, we've met a couple of times, and I appreciate her being able to come in. I took a picture from her Psychology Today profile, and she has her dog here that she calls Snugglebug. Is that right? It's a therapy dog. You can talk about that later. But Brianna's fantastic. So their talk today is about addiction and trauma. And I'll just read a quick little bio here. I provide a compassionate process through a safe and non-judgmental communication dynamic. I encourage individuals to challenge themselves through introspective exercises while in session. I strongly believe in a person-centered modality. My priority as a clinician in the field of mental health and addiction is to move toward the elimination of stigma and misconceptions. So with that, I'd like to welcome Brianna, and thank you all for coming. Okay, all right, okay.
That might feel soft. More comfortable. And I brought candy to try. Good morning, everybody. My name is Brianna. I'm a licensed clinician. I practice at a Oceanside. I'm here today to talk about trauma and addiction because I grew up in that world. That was the only familiarity I had. So I'll speak a little bit about that in a little while. The reason why I asked the chairs to be arranged in a circle today is, one, I'm uncomfortable with public speaking. Therapists are typically the people that are behind things and like to hide behind, just have you be more in the spotlight. And I wanted to make this more of a therapeutic experience today. The reason why is when we hear the words trauma and addiction, it's unheard of that there's a human being on the earth that has not been affected in some way. So what that means is, as human beings, we can actually connect on a deeper level. So what I want to do is actually make this more of a group experience. Okay, so in a moment, I'm going to be joining you. I'm going to be sitting down with you. If anyone is standing in or on the outside and prefers to join, you're more than welcome. I will still throw you candy on the outside. I want to first start out, I've already forgotten points, so I'm going to be looking down randomly. I want to talk to you a little bit about my background and why I focus on this as my specialty. When I grew up in a really dysfunctional home. And it was very scary, it was very frightening, and genetically, addiction runs rampant in my family, like many of us. Like many of us, we've experienced some really painful, frightening, shaming experiences. And oftentimes, we look at, as whether it's professionals or just as human beings, we look at this concept of use or addiction as something that either is directly correlated to trauma or experiences in life or completely separate. That's the division in our industry. So the reason why I left the industry working for facilities, not all, let me make that clear, not all facilities. I left working for some facilities because I didn't fit in. I was the rebel rouser. I was the one who had the loudmouth and always insisted that we need to stop glossing over addiction, only focusing on relapse prevention, but actually talking about the real gory details, the triggers, the reasons, the roots behind why we begin to develop these habits and patterns, where it comes from. It doesn't start at age 10, it doesn't start at age 15, it doesn't start at 22. It starts from very early on in childhood. So today we're going to talk about that, okay? But throughout this experience today, I'm going to be asking you to speak of your own experiences. You will not be put on the spot. However, candy will be provided if you need. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit down over here and work on this. All right. So in my practice, I use a term called surface recovery, and typically what I explain to my clients is That means that you're someone who's really been able to work through breaking the patterns. You're no longer in your gambling addiction. You're no longer in your sex addiction. You're no longer drinking. You're no longer using. However, you figured out a way to do it by maybe using sport, breaking the habit. But did you actually spend an amount of time in a therapeutic process? Did you actually sit down and feel your feelings? Did you acknowledge how you're feeling? Did you ever talk about the really gory details of your trauma? If the answer is no, then I let the client know you're still in surface recovery. What that means is you do get to acknowledge and applaud yourself for where you are, because it takes a lot to not only break our habit, but then maintain the habit. And then keep going back to meetings. And then keep going out and reaching out for support until you get a flow going. It takes even more energy to convince ourselves to first acknowledge that there might be something that we're feeling that's off. And maybe we know deep down, I still have a lot of secrets inside that I've never told a soul. And I'm terrified of being vulnerable. And I'm terrified of experiencing judgment. That's where therapy provides the healing. So therapy means that you're sitting down in a closed office where no one else is around. And that's where you get to discuss everything that happened. So today we're going to begin to talk about that, okay? So what comes to mind when you hear the word trauma? What images? What thoughts? What words?
Abuse.
Abuse? I really hope I can find this far. Okay, abuse. Pain.
My uncle in Vietnam and PTSD.
My uncle in Vietnam, PTSD.
Anxiety. I don't know.
Depression and anxiety.
Extreme situations.
Extreme situations. Sorry, I'm a terrible thrower. I'm not an athlete. Combat.
Vulnerability.
Vulnerability. Is that Nick? So sorry. Hey, Nick! What else comes to mind?
Emotional abuse.
Emotional abuse. There you go, Ellie.
Body.
Body. Any other
Fear.
thoughts? Fear.
Yes.
So dangerous.
The only
Shame.
reason I didn't say anything is because I didn't want to get hit eventually.
Okay.
You wouldn't
What
get
comes
hit.
to mind when you hear
Somebody else
addiction?
would.
Body. So we've heard now, body connection in both concepts. The body connection to trauma and addiction. Keep that in mind because we're going to revisit why that's so integral. What else comes to mind when you hear addiction? Images. Avoidance. That's going to be a big theme today. What else? Pain. What else?
Trauma.
Trauma.
Oh, we're not getting candy.
Oh, God, I forgot. I need a volunteer. Sandy, where's Rebecca? Sorry. Keep get going. Thank you. I didn't plan this out. I just improv it. Thank you. Okay. So, survival.
You said survival?
Survival. I lowered this.
Okay.
Okay.
Who said escape?
Escape.
Who said it was from candy?
Checking out. Numbness.
Good throw.
So emotional detachment, right? So what comes first? Trauma or addiction? Sure?
Either or.
Circle has no beginning.
Circle has no beginning. And the reason why is many families, very rare, many families like mine and many of yours, have a genetic predisposition to addiction. So it lies dormant in our bodies. Not all of us are going to act out for our addictions, but it lies dormant. And then one day, the receptor's triggered in our brain. How does the receptor get triggered? What comes to mind? How does it get triggered? Possibly trauma. What types of trauma could possibly trigger that receptor in our brain. Sexual abuse.